Hey everyone, it's Allison from AllisonReeves.co, and today I'm doing another really exciting interview with a friend and client of mine named Beth Birch, and she's a blogger at cauldronandbrew.com. Beth's been blogging for a while. She has really great content, really interesting blog and niche, but was struggling for a long time to kind of really hone in on her audience and figure out how to increase her traffic. So she joined the Monetization Accelerator program, and she's had a lot of wins over the last few months. So we're going to dive into her story, and we're going to talk about how she finally increased her traffic, how she finally tuned into her audience, and what kind of results she's gotten from tuning into her audience. So if you want to know more about Beth and her story and how she is finally making money with her blog, then just keep watching. Hey Beth, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thanks for having me, Allison. How are you?
I'm good, really good. It's good to see you.
Good to be here.
Yeah. So first, I just kind of want to dive into your background a little bit. If you want to tell me, like, what made you interested in blogging in the first place, and then how did you come up with the idea for the blog that you have now?
Excellent. So I really got interested in blogging when I realized that all these things I teach in person, a lot of people were looking for online as well. And I found myself kind of saying the same things over and over again. And so I really wanted to create, kind of like you do when you're teaching. And
Yeah.
so I really wanted to create a space where I started out just kind of hosting a bunch of information at the time.
Yeah.
And so I started a blog so I could reach a lot of people and, give them the knowledge that I have.
Yeah. That makes me want to ask another question, which is like, how did you get into, like, what were you teaching? Like, how were you teaching before you had the blog?
Before I had the blog, I was teaching at local festivals and local gatherings in my area. So um, I teach witchcraft. I teach tarot card readings. I teach intuition practice, and I really teach energy work. And God, that's a lot in one go when I say it out loud. Um, but I got involved in all of that kind of stuff in my early 20s, and I got involved with a lot of local groups that just host gatherings of witches and all kinds of people. And I found myself, growing and able to teach these things. I had a group I worked with that facilitated these gatherings. And so I applied to be a teacher, and people were loving it and kept wanting me back as a teacher. So for the most part, I was teaching this all kind of in person. And I kind of realized that a blog would also be a great way to just kind of have that information as well.
Yeah. I love that. I didn't know that part of your story. That's really fun. So you basically, the blog was the thing that was like, I want to get this to more people. People are loving this. Spread the reach. Love it. And so you started the blog. Oh, go ahead. Did you want to add something?
Nope.
So you started the blog, and you got some content going. You had a decent design. And tell me, like, how did you learn how to start blogging? And then where did you get stuck in kind of getting towards your goals?
I found blogging on Pinterest, of all places.
Makes
You
sense.
know, yeah, Pinterest has a huge blogging community that's there. And I think it just kind of learned what I liked because I kept looking at how to build websites and things like that. And I kind of come from the generation as well, where back in the day, you kind of had your own free blog that you used as a diary, but blogging is totally different today. And so I kind of just discovered it. I don't know. I kept coming back to it because it kept looking like a really great idea. And, teaching this stuff is such a passion for me that I started looking into, well, if I want to monetize, I'm going to need my own blogging platform. And, I really just enjoyed the idea of an online business that I could, also share my passion with.
Yeah, I love it. And so you started your blog definitely the right way. So I started my blog as a journal because I think we're from probably a similar generation. And then I was like, oh, that doesn't work for making money anymore. You have to like get a little more specific. So at least you had an idea in mind that was like worthy of a business. So tell me, like in trying to make money with the blog, where did you start feeling stuck?
I started feeling stuck on what to offer. And so you would think that witchcraft is like a narrow enough niche. But if you Google or look up witchcraft on Pinterest, you'll realize that there is a wide variety of methods, ways, how to's, and everything else. So I thought I had a pretty good niche, but what happened was is I could offer so many different things that I didn't really know what to offer. And I got kind of stuck on figuring out what does my audience really like, because it seemed like it was spread across the board on just like a lot of different topics.
Yeah. So really getting stuck on like what to sell. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and then we connected through like probably various social media platforms, and you eventually joined the Monetization Accelerator program. And talk to me about, I think one of your first like really big wins was traffic. So do you want to talk about like, I mean, and also the design of your site? Like you cleaned up the design of your site. You had a really awesome lead magnet in place. So tell me what you started working through. And I think one of your first big wins was traffic. So I'd love to hear like what shifts did you make that finally made your traffic explode?
For traffic, I got really consistent with Pinterest. That is just a whole search engine beast all by itself. And I think I had a really good basic start on it, but I was not maximizing in that area. So my first big win was in Pinterest and just cleaning up, like you said, cleaning up design of things and really just using my keywords well and things like that. When you treat it kind of like the search engine that it is and not a social media platform, it really changed how I started using it. But I'm glad you bring up the opt-in, because I can tell that in the beginning I had more of a generic opt-in. I had a couple of good solid ideas, but I hadn't pushed one forward, if that makes
Mm.
sense. There wasn't one at the forefront of my website. And so once I got really specific with that, I feel like that helped grow my audience a ton, between the Pinterest getting me looks and then that being like this really nice honed in item.
Yeah, it kind of like warms people up. That's what I always say is your lead magnet, if you can get specific enough and just push one really good lead magnet, it warms people up to what you're selling, which it sounds like it's done pretty well. You're building an audience of people who are interested in like the specific things that you want to sell on your blog.
Absolutely.
Cool. And so I feel like another thing that kind of happened with your traffic on Pinterest is you started growing your audience, and then you started getting some clarity around what your audience wanted, which I think gave you clarity around like what to actually sell, which was the main problem in the first place. So can you talk about like how did you start learning to listen to your audience, and then what did you do like specifically to listen to them, and how did that data help you make decisions on what to sell?
Sure. I did that in a couple of different ways. So one of the big ways I learned to listen to my audience is I had my first launch fail. Seriously. And like it sounds terrible, and like I feel like that's where people would get stuck, is if they had their first launch and it flops. But it really helped me see that that's not something they wanted. I mean, and it's a big risk putting yourself out there. I had done a social launch, and so I put myself in front of friends and family and all kinds of things, and I had no takers, and I went, okay, that's not what my audience wants. I know that for sure. So besides that, growing the traffic let me figure out what blog posts were popular. I think before it was such an even spread that I just couldn't see. And so the more data I had, the more I had to work with. And I narrowed it down to 3 blog posts that were just the ones. So um, taking those things and really kind of seeing what they liked about it, I started brainstorming pretty much courses for one of those 3 things. the thing that called to me the most was the tarot card course.
Yeah. Which I eventually ended up buying. And the training in that, the first lesson in that course, because I'm always interested in learning, like how to tap into intuition a little bit better. And your intuition training, and that was so powerful that I think I watched that lesson and then I didn't even start diving into the actual tarot card like tutorials for like 2 or 3 weeks after that.
That's good to hear.
Yeah, it was really, really powerful. I forget what you said, and I don't want to give it away because you're selling it in your course, but you gave some instruction on like how to tell the difference between like what intuition feels like versus what fear feels like. And it was like so clear cut. I was like, oh, it just made so much sense. So like, because it's hard to tell sometimes, like the fear it feels like it might be telling me not to do something, but the difference in my body between like what fear feels like and intuition was like really helpful. Cool. So how many of your tarot card courses have you sold so far?
Including you, I have 5 people in the course. I have it as a closed cart right now, and I've had a lot of signups on that sales page for interest in the next one. So that'll be opening about mid-October.
Awesome.
For relaunch.
So what are some of your biggest wins in your opinion, and what are you working on next?
Some of my biggest wins are going to be, honing in on the audience and what they want. So I had my first failed launch. Okay. Had my next one, much better. And then the next thing I launched, I doubled that. And so the more I listen, the more I see what's popular in my blog posts and in my social posts, the more I did an audience survey. I see they find important there. The more I listen, the more I figure out what I can sell. I recently launched a Facebook group, and that just grew beyond what I could have even thought to predict. I really thought that was going to be like a slow go, but like 2 weeks later, I have 100 people. I'm like, okay. And so
that's a huge win.
So making that, thank you.
100 people in 2 weeks.
So just making that connection with my audience, I feel like that's the best way that I know how to teach. And I feel like it's the best way to just be able to offer the most you can to your people.
Yeah, I was just typing up some of these wins that you were saying, so I don't forget them. That's why I was like typing and not looking at you. I forgot how successful your group was and how much clarity, like my groups have given me so much clarity around what my audience wants. Because once you have that, an email survey is one thing, but a group is another, because you can literally say like, what do you guys want to buy?
I'm working my way up towards that this afternoon, actually. Oh no, I think I might have lost you. Oh no.
Are we still live? Is it still? Oh, wow.
We were live the whole time, yeah.
Oh, that's amazing. Not for you. It must have been really awkward. Let me see if I can change my camera.
I just smiled.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I'm so sorry.
No worries.
At least I'm back. Well, let's see. I don't see how to change my camera, but I don't want to exit again. Oh, yes. You didn't do any like singing or dancing. Okay, we're back. I don't even know if
So
I can
boring.
edit that, but okay. So what I forget where we were, obviously, because my internet went out and I was a little terrified. So
Talking
what you
about
were
honing in
doing,
on the, go ahead.
yeah, so we were talking about your group and learning to listen in your group. Um, Anything else?
Just, man, getting the live feedback from people, because like, you know, it's hard to get replies via email sometimes. And so just when I have my audience in front of me, they're right there. They can tell me anything. I get all the feedback I want. And that's the good stuff right there. That connection and all that. That's the good stuff.
It's awesome. Well, we'll see. I'll try to edit out that little piece where you were just like chilling by yourself, but there's still people watching. So whoever's watching, you guys are amazing. We also got a comment from Maddie, by the way, who said, I feel so much cooler for knowing you, Beth.
Oh, she's gone again. Oh, I don't even know who's watching. Let's see what Allison has to say. I think there might be a tropical storm or hurricane down in their area, and who knows what the weather is doing for all of that. And mute and see when she comes back.
All right, I don't know why this video is still live after my internet went out twice, so I'm going to go ahead and wrap this video up and then I will edit it after the broadcast. So we had some tips from Beth. So just to kind of review Beth's story, Beth was teaching witchcraft at a lot of local events and realized that it was so popular and people wanted to learn from her so much that she wanted to really expand her offer. So she started a blog. She was getting targeted by lots of really interesting things on Pinterest and realized that she wanted to start a blog of her own to create an income for her and her family and to also spread her message a little bit further. So she started her blog, she started writing blog posts, but she got stuck with learning how to sell things or learning what to sell. And that was when her and I connected, and she joined the Monetization Accelerator program. In the Monetization Accelerator program, she learned a lot of really great things. The first thing that happened was she redid her opt-in and she exploded her traffic and she started building her email list way, way faster. Then she did her first launch and she did it to still a pretty small email list. So we used her social media to do that launch, and it ended up being kind of a failed launch. She didn't get any sales from it, but she wasn't discouraged because she learned what her audience wanted and didn't want. And I will add, this is something Beth didn't say earlier in the interview, but we were really trying to play it safe during that launch, and her audience is very specific. She's teaching witchcraft for beginners, and I think we went a little generic with that offer. So once she started getting more traffic and we started seeing the posts that were more popular, we realized people want this very specific thing from her. So in her next launch, she actually was profitable for the first time. In her third launch after that, she actually doubled her revenue from the first launch. So her biggest piece of advice for everyone was the more you learn to listen to your audience and the more places you give yourself to get feedback from them, the more your sales will increase and you'll get clarity on what to sell. That was one of the biggest things she's learned in the program so far. She also, another piece of advice that she had for everyone was making sure to use Pinterest as a search engine tool rather than just a social media platform for you to be on. And her biggest thing that she learned was how to listen to your audience and knowing what to sell. Another huge win for her was getting 100 Facebook group members in 2 weeks, and that has provided the best place for her to learn how to sell things to her audience and what to sell more specifically over time. One piece of advice that she messaged me, because my Wi-Fi went out twice, I asked her, like, what is the final advice that you would give anyone who is newer and wants to make money with a blog? And she said, build the audience connection and don't be afraid to be you. I'm an odd duck in the blogging world and I love it. So Beth, thank you so much for joining me today. Sorry about the technical difficulties. If you guys have questions or comments, leave them down below and I'll make sure that Beth sees them. But thank you for everyone who hung in here with the technical difficulties, and I'll see you in the next video.